how are we doing? Something I've noticed in my reading in 2026 that I've been picking up a lot of ice hockey romances, which not something I expected. I don't know, I've never really been a big sports romance girly. I've also never been against it. I've picked up one occasionally here and there, but I feel like that whole like ice hockey hype everyone was on like a little bit ago, but to be fair, it's back because Fatal Rivalry but like was really big as well like a little bit ago. I kind of felt like I missed out on that, even if I read a couple of those. Just, I don't know, it never really grabbed my interest, but like for some reason in 2026 I've been reading quite a few ice hockey romances. I also noticed that on kind of like my immediate TBR there were 3 books that I really wanted to read that had had a character that is an ice hockey player as well, so I thought it would be just fun to do that in a vlog format, read these books together, see how I feel about ice hockey books, you know? I don't know. Anyway, the books that I ended up reading for this video were Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. I've been wanting to, mainly, the thing is, I've mainly been wanting to read the sequels to this book. Is from Icebreaker, I haven't heard like too many great things about, but like for Wildfire and Daydream, I've heard great things about, and I'm just the kind of person who likes to read books in order, so why not start with this one? And then I also wanted to read Pucking Around by Emily Rath. This is a polyamorous romance as well. I don't know, I always like a white shoes romance, but I feel like it's very hard to come upon ones that I like also highly recommended, you know? So I haven't read too many. So when this was going around a couple of years ago, it definitely piqued my interest. The only thing that I've always been scared of is just because of how long it is, which is like a typical thing with white shoes romances or like polyamorous romances. And I don't know, now that I came up with this video idea, I was like, perfect time to read this. And then of course I also have Game Changer by Rachel Reid, which I presume is not what you expected. I think you expected Hero Rivalry, but as I just told you, I like reading series in order. So we're doing Game Changer first, and I'm very excited about this. I'm not the biggest fan of the show, I didn't really like it, but like comparatively to like other people, I was not like obsessed with it. So I'm a bit nervous to see what I'm gonna think of these books. Of course I already know, because like I said, I'm filming this afterwards, but I was a bit nervous to see what I was going to think of the series. I think that already tells you enough. And yeah, those are the 3 books I'm going to be reading in this vlog, because I've already read them. And yeah, I hope you have fun watching it. Okay, so I have gotten started on Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. I've been sick all week, like I've had such a bad cold, so I have not been reading for a while. And then today I'm feeling better and my head is clear. So I picked up this book because I wanted something kind of like light to read, and I'm definitely getting that. I am currently 200 pages in, which is a little under halfway through. I don't know if you can see the bookmark is very visible. There we go. And I don't know how to feel about this book, because like I said, it is definitely like a light read. In that sense, it is what I need. I am having fun with it, but I'm not the biggest fan of the romance at this point. Let me first talk to you what this book is about. Obviously, in this book we follow Anastasia, who is a figure skater, and we follow Nathan, who is the captain of a hockey team. They're both in college, and this college is like really well known for kind of like the effort they put into the athletes at the school. So they also have like 2 ice rinks, one for the figure skaters, one for the ice hockeyers. But then something happens that kind of like destroys the rink from the ice hockeyers, so now they have to share the rink with, now the figure skaters and the ice hockey players have to share the same rink, which brings up some tension, because obviously like Anastasia and her partner, like she's doing duo figure skating, they're kind of like the pride of the figure skaters in the school, and they're actually currently working towards getting into the Olympics, so it's like very high pressure, and like having to share like the time and space with the ice hockeyers isn't the greatest. But as kind of this whole thing is going on, Anastasia's best friend is also like starting a relationship with Nathan's best friend, and so they kind of like have to see each other more often and start falling for each other that way, obviously. Like I said, I don't know how to feel about the romance, because I feel like Nathan's feelings kind of just came completely out of nowhere for me. I feel so far this book is just very sex between them. Sex so many times already, and like I said, I'm not even halfway through. It's a lot. And with Anastasia, you can really tell that it's like very much just sex for her, but like under the surface like feelings are surfacing. But like Nathan has been all in on feelings for like a while now, and I don't know where it came from. It's just like, I don't know where all of this ended. So I wish we had a little bit more of that. I also, they're very possessive towards each other, like very jealous, possessive, in a way that's not necessarily problematic, but gives me the ick. And on top of that, I also just think and this is a common complaint I've seen of this book, is that Nathan and Anastasia are the most boring characters in this book. The cast of side characters are so much fun. They're a blast, and I can't wait to read the other books in the series. But Nathan and Anastasia just kind of are a bit of a bore, and the relationship is a bit of a bore. And like, I don't know, but like for the rest, I am having a fun enough time with this book. One thing that's like starting to piss me off though is that Anastasia has a very toxic friend that's also her skating partner, and it's just starting to piss me off how little she's recognizing how much of a shit he is. So yeah, I don't know. I had a good time with this. I have my issues with it, as you can tell, but I'm very excited to continue reading, so I'll probably be doing it tomorrow because it's quite late now, and I'm tired, so I want to go to bed. So I'll see you then, I guess. Bye. Hi, so I have finished Icebreaker, and I'm gonna give it 3 stars. I feel like I definitely liked the second half of this book more than the first half. I feel like more interesting and fun stuff was happening in the second half, and I think like the first half could have been reduced a lot because there was a lot of repetitiveness within it, but I still kind of feel like the romance was a bit the most boring part of this book. And like the thing that I said that was frustrating me earlier, that got resolved in a really good way. So I'm not upset about that anymore. But I feel like the main characters in the romance is just, like I said, the least interesting about this book. And I also think it's just too long. I feel like it dragged on quite a bit, which is why it was a 3-star. But overall, I did have a really fun time reading this. I'm actually very excited to continue on with the series because I just checked who the other 2 books are about, and I love those characters. So I'm very excited for them to get their own books. In fact, I have Wildfire from the library out already, so I'm gonna be starting that as I stop recording this, because I don't know, these are just a really good time, and that's, yeah, despite this being a 3-star, you know, it's fine. I totally get why this got popular when it did, but I also get like a lot of people who didn't like this one as much because it is just okay, you know? So I'm 200 pages into Pucking Around by Emily Rath. I don't know how to feel about this book. 200 pages might seem like I'm far in, but this book is 640 something pages, so it's not that much. And I thought it would be a good point of the video because I do feel like we have gotten to a turning point in the book. But how do I talk about this? Let me first give you a synopsis. In this book we follow Rachel, who is a doctor, and I don't really understand because like she is a doctor. She has the degree, she has the thing, yet she has a scholarship, like a fellowship. I don't know. I don't get it. That is causing her, like, that sent her out to this ice hockey team called to race. And actually, fun fact, before the start of the book, a couple of months before that, she had like a one-night stand with this guy that she like never really got over, and that guy just so happens to be on the hockey team. Wow, shocker. It's not just like a straight up romance, like I said, so why choose? Um, so besides the hockey player, we also have the guy who does the equipment of the team as a love interest, and then the hockey players. I'm bad with names, I apologize. I for some reason can't blanking on their names, but I literally just put the book down. But anyway, but the 2 of them have been best friends for ages. And then the third love interest is this, also it's the goalie, and he is Finnish, and he's very like close off, and so far we haven't really gotten a lot of him, so I can't say that much. But that's the situation. Anyway, I feel like this book is moving at such a quick pace because I'm 200 pages in, other 600 plus pages, and so far we have 2 sex scenes, one of which was a threesome. And where I just left things off, which why I said would be a great turning point, is that the people involved in the threesome have just made an arrangement kind of relationship style, and I was like, okay, why do we have 400 other pages? Like, what's the point? I feel like a White Shoes should be this big because it takes so long to like develop these characters, to develop these romances, not just already have basically a relationship dynamic established between 3 people within like the first third of this book. Like, what's the point? But yeah, so far I think that it is like extremely list based, and I don't really get any of the feeling vibes, but I do have a feeling like with the goalie character, because he's like so kind of more close off, maybe on that side we'll get like the actual work with more of like the emotional side of things. But like, characters are saying I love you and we don't know anything about them, and it just, I don't know, it's moving so quickly, and I don't know if I'm a fan of that, but I'm having a good enough time with it, I guess. One thing that is frustrating me is that Rachel, rightfully so, is constantly saying like, hey, I'm your guys' doctor, this isn't professional, but then like also like isn't actually bother with it. Like it's something she says, but then like the other characters will go like, oh, but we love you, and she's like, okay, fine. It's like, why even bring up these issues if they're not gonna be issues? You know what I mean? I'm on page 400 of Parking Around, and I'm not gonna lie, I hate my life. God, this has just gotten so bad. The absolute lack of boundaries between these people. Oh my god. And then I mean, we set the boundary, we cross them anyway, because who gives a fuck about boundaries? Like, who actually cares about, you know, respecting your loved ones, right? Who wants that in a romance book? You know, when someone says no and you still fuck them anyway? That didn't happen, by the way. That makes it sound worse. But what did happen is that the two characters wanted to get it on in front of a third person. The third person said no. I don't want that to happen. I don't want to watch you have sex. That's a very respectable boundary, you know? And then they did it anyway. And just because he ended up being into it, it's fine. No, people have gone to jail for that, you know? That's sexual assault. In a romance book. Not even dark romance. This is supposed to be like cute, fluffy romance. How is this sexy to anyone? Truly. Oh my god. I can't. And even besides that, like that obviously is sexual assault, and that's the worst. But even before that, we do have a scene. There's gonna be minor spoilers in this update. I apologize, but like nothing too major. So, I don't know. Skip to the next part if you don't want to know. But basically, what the situation is that we have Jake and Caleb, who are the hockey player that she knew from before, and the equipment guy, because now I know people's names. Those two, together with Rachel, have formed a trouble. But then Rachel also has a connection with Ilmari. I think that's how I pronounce it. I'm not sure. It's a Finnish name. I don't speak Finnish. Those two also have formed a little bit of a connection, or like sexual attraction, let's say, because nobody has feelings in this book. Let's just say that. I mean, technically they say I love you, but there is no development of feelings anywhere. It just, I want to fuck you, I don't fuck you, and then they fuck, and then that's the romance development. Anyway, so we have a trouble, and then a side attraction going on. But Ilmari also has like an injury that he's been hiding for the whole season so far, and Rachel kind of like notices and is like forcing him to take care of it, but because he wants to play for the Finnish team in the Olympics, he's kind of very scared of like getting out. So she's like, hey, I can't help you unless I know what it is, so we need scans. So she makes a deal with a doctor, like that's her mentor that she worked with before this whole thing, to because then it can like happen off the books, if that makes sense. So she still knows exactly what she's dealing with to help him out, but like the hockey scouts don't have to know about anything, you know? Before she and Amari go to like a different city to get this done, there is an agreement made between Caleb, Jake, and Rachel. It's like, hey, during this trip, like figure out what the holding between you and Amari is. Also like tell him about our situation so that he is like fairly knows what he's getting into, which that's all fine and dandy. So she tells him like, hey, we're in a trouble, but I'm still into you. And then they have this whole, like they have sex and he's fine with it and everything. And then after they've, you know, had sex and everything, Amari has some questions about the situation. This woman outs two people right in front of him because Caleb is bisexual. He is closeted. The only people who know about this are Rachel and Jake, but for the rest, nobody knows. And on top of that, right before they leave on this trip, they've had like a threesome situation where for the first time Caleb and Jake have like an interaction, let's say, and that awakens something in Jake, but like he still hasn't confronted that even himself. And yet this woman tells Amari, oh yeah, Caleb and Jake are also fucking. Caleb is bisexual and Jake is bi-curious. He's still figuring things out. Bitch, who told you you can out these two people, one of which hasn't even confronted the fact that he might be bi himself? Like, what the fuck are we talking about? Like, really? How? I was supposed to believe you love these two idiots while you're outing them? And I get that she says that she trusts Amari to keep things a secret, even if he like doesn't want to get fully involved with everything. But like, that's not your decision to make. It's not your decision to make if you can out two men. I'm sorry. Oh, I hate it so much. And then at the same time, the doctor that's her mentor that they're going to is actually Amari's father, who he's been estranged from years because the father left his mother well, like relatively soon in his life. I don't know, because we never tell, and like he's been raised by like I guess his stepdad, but he considers that's his father, and like has rejected anything to have to know with like his biological dad. It turns out that this doctor is a biological dad, and like was totally fine with Rachel's plan just so he could trick his son into, you know, conversing with him again. And, you know, this is very deeply personal stuff from a guy who, like, barely opens up to anyone about anything. And yet, she feels like that's completely fine to tell her best friend as well as Jake and Caleb without Omari's knowledge. And yet, I'm supposed to believe, like, she likes this man, like, honestly. I don't get how this is supposed to be romantic at all. Add to that to the fact that, like I said, I don't think this book does a great job at developing like the relationship between these characters. It's just sex scene after sex scene after sex scene, and like in between sex scenes is them talking about wanting to have sex. So that's not great. It's also just like a lot of possessiveness in this book, which is strange. Like I have a very hard time believing any of these men are comfortable being polyamorous because of how they're like mine, you know what I mean? It's wild, and I don't know how that's supposed to be believable. And I don't know, there's also just like very flat characters where I feel like the characterization sometimes doesn't make sense. Like Rachel went on like this whole thing with Caleb of like, oh, you're my dog boyfriend. And there's a darkness within you that you should allow to unleash when he's like, he's a golden retriever, honestly. Like I don't think he even fits the term grumpy, which is also used to describe him very often. Like nothing about his personality says that he has some hidden darkness lurking that he's holding back. Where the fuck did that come from? Same kind of with Rachel. She talks to Omari about like her whole like polyamorous situation, and like here's the thing, if you want to be poly, be poly. I don't give a fuck. But like the way she talked about it as like, I contain so many multitudes, one man can't have like one man can satisfy me, and I'm like, dude, you're the most one-dimensional character I've ever read. Chill. It's the descriptions and like the actual characterizations aren't matching at all, and it's wild. And I don't know, I have another 200 pages left of this. Like I said, then the fact that I just left things off with like an assault scene, like if I wasn't this far in, I would be DNFing. I'm telling you that, because what the fuck is this book? Okay, so I finished packing around, and for anyone who watched my little spoiler update, it would be no surprise that this is a 1-star. Oh my god. I generally don't know how I actually made it to the end of this book. I don't know what to say. Besides the fact that I didn't think this was good. I feel like the characters were extremely one-dimensional. There was no romance, it was just all sex, which, you know, is fine. But then don't have them saying I love you to each other. At least, but try to put in some development in there. I really didn't like any of the characters, despite them being one-dimensional. I didn't think they were great characters. The amount of boundary crossing that's done in this book is actually insane. And especially for like a poly romance. I feel like, you know, when it comes to polyamory, I feel like one of the big tenets is always just like communicating a lot, like having respect for the other person's boundaries, and it just was not the case in this book, and that was really annoying. Also, these guys are so fucking possessive. I genuinely think they would be happier in a monogamous relationship. I can't believe that they're fine being poly. It just doesn't make sense. And that's not to say that you can't have like some jealousy or like possessiveness if you are poly. I'm sure you can, but especially like the protectiveness over, you know, just like the 4 of them and like nothing outside of that. But like the amount of times they would say you're mine and only mine, I'm like, bitch, no, you're sharing with 3 other people. Not 3 other people, with 2 other people. Is it? Yeah, not a big part that I disliked was because how many times it kind of like went in circles when it comes to kind of like characters conflicts. And like here's the thing, do I think it's a bad thing to, when you get into a polyamorous relationship for the first time, that you feel insecure and you're thinking that the other 2 will leave you in the dust? I feel like, of course, I'm not polyamorous, so I don't know, but I would assume there's all kind of like natural feelings that come up at the start of a relationship. But if you've been like reassured a billion times that that will not happen and that both people love you, and you still keep thinking this way, maybe you shouldn't be in a poly relationship, you know? Maybe that means you're not ready for it. And this is just something that happened with all 3 of the guys, just constantly, and it was so annoying. And then with Rachel, she didn't have any insecurities about being in a like trouble kind of situation, like a foursome kind of relationship. She had no insecurities around that, but like she kept being like, oh, but I have like a dark past, will they still want me? Like they will ruin their careers and I don't want to be in between them and their careers. And she just kept saying that. Even though she's been reassured like a billion times, like we don't give a fuck. Hey, I'm mad at them, she still went on like a rampage because she thought they would leave her because of like the disasters she would meet for their careers. It's just like, oh my god. It's so annoying. And we kept doing it over and over and over again. I feel like one time would have been fine, but no, we did it like 10 times. I don't know. This book did not need to be 600 pages. I mean, maybe it should have. If you actually like put in a time to develop these characters and develop their relationships with each other. Yeah, okay, sure. This definitely needed to be 600 pages. I feel like the White Shoes always needs to be a bit bigger for me because of that. There was just much more to do than in like a monogamous relationship, obviously. But this didn't do that. This had zero character development, zero relationship development. The only reason it was 600 pages is so that the author could write even more sex scenes. Alice already has way too many. So I am halfway through Game Changer, and I fear I'm fucking obsessed. Why did I always waste most of my day-to-day reading packing around when I could have been reading this? Anyway, if you don't know, Game Changer is the first book in the Game Changer series, which is the same series you know Rivalries from. You might have heard of that show, maybe. But in this book, we follow Scott, who is a hockey player. He's gay, in the closet, very much so. And one day he like goes on a run before a game night, and he stops by the smoothie place and gets a smoothie from this cute guy that works there named Kip. And he's been having a lot of bad luck with like games, hasn't been playing that well. But that night he actually like plays really well. So now he kind of has a superstition where every time before a game he has to go get the smoothie, and very quickly he realizes that the only reason that he is not just coming in to the smoothie place for the smoothie and a superstition, but also for the cute guy working there. And yeah, it's the cutest romance I've ever seen. And that's not to say that there isn't spice in it, because quite literally we've had quite a lot of sex scenes. But as you can tell by the fact that I'm even annotating this, I'm fucking obsessed with this book. Like, I don't know how to tell you how much I love Scott and Kip. Like, their relationship is everything to me. Like, yes, you could argue that it's very incel because it's very much like a whirlwind romance. Like, you fall in love very quickly. But I don't care because I just think it is really well executed. Just like from like their first little flirtations to like them actually like going on their first date and like cooking up and everything. And even now, just like the little moments that they have together are just so precious to me. Like they're two bumbling idiots and they're perfect for each other. I'm obsessed. And generally I've been reading this book mostly with like a huge smile on my face because that's just how much I love this book. And on top of that, I also just think it's like quite funny. Like there's been a few times where it just like legit make me chuckle, but also at the same time I feel like because Scott is closeted and it talks a lot about kind of like the pressure he's under being a gay guy that's also a pro athlete, you know, and how he doesn't really feel like he could ever come out as long as he's playing in the NHL, or because there are no out players in the NHL and there never have been. And he deals with that a lot, and like very especially now at this point where I am in the book, he's just like so in love with Kip that he's just like, I hate that I can do this publicly either that we have to contain this to the apartment. And just like the discussions around that I feel like are just so well done so far. And obviously I've seen the show, so I know that's gonna get to a head, and I'm for sure that that's gonna make me sob, and I'm not ready for that. But yeah, I think it's great. And like Kip also, like his kind of side storyline is that like he has a history degree and he wants to do more with that, but obviously he works at his movie where he's never really gotten to get his dream job, so he's also kind of working towards that a little bit to work more like his dream field. He also still lives with his parents, which he's kind of a little bit ashamed about, which, hey, in this economy I don't give a shit. But especially like compared to like Scott, who like seemingly has it all, you know, he kind of feels a little bit ashamed for like the place in life that he's had. And I quite like that discussion as well. So I don't know, I I think this is great, and I'm obsessed, so obsessed that I have already looked up the other books online. I own Edith Bible, but I might have all the other books in my basket online already. So the only reason I have not bought them is because it's late, and you should not be making monetary decisions this late in the day. So I have finished Game Changer, but before I give you my thoughts on this book, I did something bad. But why does it feel so good? To quote the iconic Taylor Swift. Yeah, I bought the rest of the series. I already own Heated Rivalry. I bought Game Changer and Heated Rivalry at the same time. But I did order all of the other books online. So honestly, you know what I'm kind of wanting to do is just binge through this entire series. So I think I'm gonna do like finishing the series vlog. I kind of want to do more like that be a format that I introduce this year, because I do often, like sometimes, don't do it as often as I would like to, do like a complete series vlog where I read like the entire series. But obviously for series where I've already read a book, that doesn't really work. So I kind of want to do kind of more of those within like completing a series. Let me know if you're interested in that. But yeah, I think I'm gonna do that for this series now that I own them all, because I want to binge my way through it. And that should probably already tell you enough about what I'm going to tell you about this book, you know, when you already have my first half thoughts on it. But this was such an easy 5 stars. Oh my god, I love this book so much, and I'm very glad about that, because this vlog wasn't going my way. But I just very simply adored this book and everything about it. I was right to think that once you know, we were getting into the third conflict, that things were going to be emotionally heavy for me. I didn't sob the way I thought I would, but that's probably because like these things are things that I saw coming, and therefore I think it is like very well within where it's just, when it comes to like the third conflict, it's just something that's been building the entire book, and then when it just like happens, you totally understand why it happens, and it's painful, but it's also like very understandable. And I also just like the way that they both kind of resolve that, I guess. The third conflict isn't really dragged out for long, it's like very short, get resolved extremely quick. It's not like the conflict came out of nowhere for either of them. It just like afterwards be like, oh shit, maybe it shouldn't have been as big of a deal as I made it in my head, if that makes sense. I really like that. I love this, as I gotta know, and I love it that much that I immediately bought the entire series, which is a thing I try not to do anymore. So they just chose, especially considering this is not a series that continues on with each other, you know. Every book is a different couple, so it's not like I need to binge my way through the series, but I really desperately want to after reading this. So I feel like that says enough just in general. But yeah, that's it for this vlog. I have a 3-star, a 1, and then a 5. So thank God for this one to crank up that average, you know. But like, to be fair, Icebreaker, I have since read that entire trilogy as well. And the other 2 books I enjoyed much more, with Daydream even being a 5-star. Spoiler alert for my wrap up. So I feel like that still introduced me to like something good. So I shouldn't be too mad. And yeah, if I thought ice hockey was was something that was appearing a lot in romances that I've been reading, buckle up, girl. There's a whole series of them. But yeah, that's everything I have for you today. This was kind of like a little bit of a silly vlog, because it was just 3 books that fit this theme that I really wanted to read. So yeah, I hope you didn't mind watching it. I hope you had fun watching it, and then hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye.